I might be opening this video by saying something incredibly controversial, but I can't help it. I really like getting free stuff. Food, money, clothes, various items that give us the strength to defeat our enemies and anyone who dares to oppose us, and more stuff like that. One of the most satisfying parts of playing a video game is conquering a test of strength or wits that leads to your reward confined in the greatest storage container ever made. The treasure chest. Whenever you see one, you know there's going to be something good inside of it. Through decades of gaming and fantasy media, we've all been conditioned to always see chests as a good fit, until it grows enormous arms and legs that want to put your face in front of its incredibly sharp teeth. This devious monster is known as a mimic, and it is, in my opinion, one of the greatest enemies ever created in all of fiction. The idea of an enemy that can masquerade themselves as an ally has certainly been done before in various different games, but the Mimic is an incredibly special deviation from what you'd expect from something like a shapeshifter, because until you experience your first ever encounter with a Mimic, you have no reason to not trust a treasure chest. Think about it. They can't hurt you, they can't betray you, they can't say mean things to you on social media. The worst thing they could do is have underwhelming loot inside of them. A universal symbol of endlessly possible rewards being turned into one of fearful doubt regarding its contents the moment you see one is downright horrifying. Which is one of the many reasons why I find it so brilliant. It's because of my fascination for treasure chests and gaming and everything else I just said about mimics that I wanted to make my first ever top 10 list of my absolute favorite mimics in all of gaming. I've never done one of these before, so I figured I might as well start with something I have a strangely intense interest in. Sadly, there's a severely lacking amount of mimics compared to other fantasy enemies, but trust me when I say I got 10 really interesting ones that I'm gonna love sharing with you all. You know what game you definitely think of when talking about evil creatures disguising themselves as loot? Super Mario 64! The world's most iconic 3D platformer that doesn't have a single treasure chest in it has a mimic! Technically. Also, yes, I'm aware there are actual chests in-game, but they're only for solving puzzles in certain levels and, breathing. Please don't sue me for defamation. The level Big Boo's Haunt is home to many scary things. There's booze aplenty, the paintings are freaky, and the rotation is perfect. However, if you delve deep enough into the haunted mansion, you'll eventually find the Mad Piano. Now, this iteration of a mimic doesn't contain any loot, but it does behave exactly like a mimic. It's a docile piano at first, simply guarding one of the red coins needed to get a star. But the moment you get too close, it'll brandish its fangs and lunge at Mario. It's so unexpected, and most definitely at least a little spooky for first-time Super Mario 64 players, making it one of the most iconic enemies, yet alone mimics in gaming history. I guarantee that the Mad Piano is one of the many enemies that people recognize the most from Super Mario 64, despite it only being in one of the game's many levels. I don't think it'd be fitting to put it above other mimics, but the Mad Piano's shock factor alone may be one to include it on this list. This next entry is what I consider to be most certainly the worst out of all forms of loot-based mimicry. The fake Pokeballs from pretty much every Pokemon game ever. Just imagine being a 10-year-old trainer starting out on your journey with your very own starter Pokemon at your side, and you just so happen to stumble across an item hiding in the tall grass. You get close enough to pocket it, but psych! It was actually just a Voltorb or an Electrode just waiting to self-destruct right in your gullible little face. And then Gen 6 happened and added even more bullshit with Fungus and Amoonguss. These basically serve to waste your time unless you happen to be looking for these specific Pokemon, and it just feels like a slap to the face once you go through the pain of walking through random encounters only to have your entire team marinated in status effects. Or in the instance of Voltorbs and Electrodes, death. Fiery, painful death. I will give the concept some credit though. Pokeballs with items in them are basically just tiny sphere-shaped treasure chests, so having Pokemon that closely resemble them take their place is a smart way to subvert any trader's expectations. I find it kind of cool how these 4 Pokemon were perfectly made for loose Pokeballs to be a potential threat, but I honestly never have any of them in my party personally. Maybe I keep a Fungus because they're really cute. With Pokemon Scarlet and Violet being released, you probably assume Gimmighoul would be a much better candidate as a Pokemon mimic of sorts, since they live inside a treasure chest. As much as I absolutely love their concept, they don't aim to deceive you with their appearance as a chest. The closest things to a chest in the Pokemon games are Pokeballs, and they clearly look nothing like one. Here's a better visual comparison. I know that this picture doesn't have a mimic in it, since I can see it's just a gimme ghoul. However, in this picture, I have no clue if the Pokeball on the ground is an item or an Among Us waiting to jump scare me. Though the reality of this jump scare is just being inconvenienced for 2 seconds, so it's because of that I would put the fake Pokeballs at number 9. Dicey Dungeons is one of my favorite roguelikes of all time. I am strangely drawn to games that revolve around dice, so being able to play as a wide variety of dice who use dice to power their attacks instantly hooked me in. There's a bunch of different enemies you'll find as you escape the Dicey Dungeons, ranging from Wizard, Obnoxious Small Child, Kraken, that f***ing bird that I hate, Mother Big Dick Cornelius. Yeah, that's his actual name, look it up. And my personal favorite enemy, Baby Squid. Aww. In terms of mimics, Dicey Dungeons gets bonus points for not having just one, but 2 different mimics. Introducing the Rotten Apple and the Mimic. Both of these enemies take the Pokemon Among Us approach, where they take the appearance of a treasure chest and an apple. You constantly run into both of these items while exploring each floor of a dungeon to get more equipment and healing, so you're bound to be tricked by one of them eventually. You're able to hover your mouse over a part of the map before moving anywhere though, so you'll be able to see if it's an enemy or an actual helpful item, which is nice since you can prepare beforehand if you have the right equipment to deal with them. As far as how they fight, the Mimic is pretty straightforward. At the start of each turn, it gets a mystery box. It activates it with a die, and it gets a random piece of equipment for that turn. None of them are particularly deadly, but you'll never know what kind of attack it'll use each turn. Also, if you're in this case unlucky enough to find one in the harder episodes where enemies' equipment is upgraded, then things can get really hectic real fast. This smug little cunt-serving chest knows exactly how to push my buttons in moments like that. I don't know if I'm going to censor that word in post, but you know what? I'm just going to leave it up to the editor, yeah! Now for the Rotten Apple, it doesn't have any treasure chest related mimicry, but it is one of the first instances I've seen of a healing item being turned into an enemy, which is insanely cool to me. Its attacks being able to halve your health and chip away at you slowly is also kind of neat, but it can also be counterplayed very easily. If you were to fight all the other enemies on a floor and save the Rotten Apple for last, then you'll most likely be able to level up after the fight and recover all your HP from the level up, taking away all the risk of losing lots of health. Also, you'll probably be at low health anyway, so it'll barely reduce your HP when it uses Rotten Core, which also takes forever to use with its high activation cost. These guys aren't the most exciting or innovative mimics by any means, but I'm glad they exist. They make an already amazing game's roster of enemies even more charming. The Mimic really wanting you to take a nap inside of this entirely non-suspicious chest-shaped resting place certainly adds a lot. Yes, I am also very uncomfortable. Moving on. This next entry is a bit of a conundrum to me. I'm not entirely sure if it even fits the requirement of a mimic, but I feel like it achieves the same effect without it being a creature that lives inside a chest. In The Binding of Isaac, there's tons of items that you can find in various different chests. Some of these items make you cry a little, cry a lot, cry even more. Oh my god, there's so many tears. Literally yourself, drugs,
crack. What the fuck?
And you know the other classic roguelike enhancements. The chests themselves that contain these items aren't anything special or out of the ordinary. That is, except for one of them. The one I want to spotlight is the Haunted Chest. Dun dun dun! Added in the Repentance DLC, the Haunted Chest may just look like an ordinary chest with a slightly brighter tint, but when Isaac tries to open it, dun dun dun! I'm doing this again because I like saying it, it's kind of funny. I'm gonna do it again. Dun dun dun! A little ghost called a Pulti emerges and starts yeeting the chest into his sad little face. So mean. I like to consider this to be a part of a subgenre of mimics that revolve more around something tied to the chest rather than it being the mimic itself. I also don't think the Haunted Chest is considered a reach either, considering how you never encounter one in the game until you defeat Mega Satan with the character known as Tainted Lost, which will definitely not happen for a while. Trust me, I have way too many hours in this game to not know what I'm talking about. It's important to bring this up since you're doing countless runs opening these non-hostile chests, slowly unlocking more and more stuff until you suddenly see that you unlocked the Haunted Chest.
Alright, I get it!
The name should surely give itself away as it not being an average chest, but you still press on, bawling your eyes out, not knowing what the chest looks like, until it finally happens. You see a regular looking chest, you try to claim its treasure, and then boom! The souls of the damned try to kill you with the very thing you've trusted for hours of gameplay. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry, I don't know why I wrote that into the script. It's that very first time experiencing what the haunted chest does that made me really want to mention it despite it not entirely fitting the topic at hand. Oddly enough, the Binding of Isaac has a chest literally called a mimic chest, but I didn't plan to mention that since it just protrudes spikes whenever Isaac gets close to it, like a spike chest, which is also a chest in the game. Point being, I think the haunted chest at least does the whole mimicry thing better than the actual in-game mimic chest. Tell me in the comments if y'all think I'm reaching by calling it a mimic or not. I enjoy playing the occasional Metroidvania from time to time, but the best ones, in my opinion, need to do just one thing for me. Let me save some kind of little guy during my adventure. The grubs in Hollow Knight, in particular, are the little guys that work perfectly as mimics. As you explore Hollow Nest, you'll occasionally see an itty-bitty worm trapped in a glass jar, and it's up to you to free them. With the newfound abilities you gain, you'll be able to eventually break every jar and free all of the grubs. Except some of them are big stinking liars! Let me paint the scene. Imagine seeing an abandoned puppy in a dark alleyway. Sad and alone, you try to befriend the lost puppy, only for it to flip on its back, grow insect legs, and immediately eat your face off like it's a pit bull at an orphanage. That, hopefully, describes the extent of what I experienced properly when first encountering a grub mimic. You see, it's not enough to deceive you into thinking they're your friend. They legit trap themselves in the same glass jars as the actual grubs, and instantly attack you when freeing them from the prison that they put themselves in. I have a personal, vendetta against these bastards because they take advantage of something so sacred that is saving the little guy in the glass jar. You can't do that, man. You can't do that to me. This is the first time I ever felt sad when discovering a mimic, because after that, I couldn't stop myself from mistrusting every grub I saw, forcing myself to use the dream nail to ensure that they were good worms and not the bad worms, which is what makes the grub mimic an amazingly effective mimic. If I see anyone call it a Vernias, I'm gonna kill you. If you ever played a bunch of RPGs that aren't set in a medieval setting and you thought you were safe from mimics since there are no treasure chests around, then think the f*** again! The next mimic I want to talk about is the barrel demons from Ender Lilies, a Metroidvania that I have recently fallen in love with. I beat the game 100%, got every ending, yada yada yada, it's amazing, go play it. In this game, you are a last bit of hope for the world that's been consumed by the Blight, and you purify the scourge by harnessing the spirits of the bosses you fight. You, in turn, use your powers to fight enemies and help further explore the freshly drowned world you wander aimlessly in. As you're exploring, you can break some objects that might have an item or experience inside. Boxes, pots, and barrels are all breakable, but given how these containers contain things, the container you break might be more than a container. It could also be someone's house. I think the enemy itself is pretty threatening and can definitely be a challenge to fight, but I'm more intrigued by its ability to hide in objects outside of treasure chests. If you're experienced in RPGs or D&D, you'd already expect a potential mimic encounter from a chest, which Ender Lilies has quite a few of, but there's no chance you'd think regular boxes or vases would house those tainted by the Blight. In Yakuza Like a Dragon, Ichiban Kasuga has to fight a lot of weird people. Mystery meatsmiths, tigers and excavators and bears, oh my! And even a giant Roomba that you personally fund for one of the game's many sub-stories. It's hilarious, by the way. I cannot recommend this game enough. Now, you're gonna be fishing through random trash a lot throughout the game to get stuff to fight these enemies. But sometimes, the trash fights back. This is a pseudo-trash. They disguise themselves as trash bags to get a better chance of finding good stuff in the garbage, and they just so happen to look like kappas. Their main methods of attack are rummaging through their trash bags for something to fight with, and throwing it back so hard with their literal massive dumpies that it does physical damage. I'm surprised it doesn't do psychological damage, but oh well. This is personally the funniest and silliest mimic I've ever seen in a video game. Like a Dragon has its own version of Pokemon called Sujimon, except instead of Pokemon, it's a bunch of crazy Japanese people who want to kill you. The pseudo-trash is just one of the hundreds of them that you see during the game, and they're really rare to find, so the further into the story you are, the more caught off guard you'll be when seeing one for the first time. It's another really good mimic that blends itself into a resource that you constantly use throughout your time in Like a Dragon, with a unique comedic charm that absolutely needs to be experienced at least once in your playthrough. Dark Souls is the hardest video game franchise ever created because blah blah blah. Who cares? We're only here for this freaky creature. The mimics in the Souls games, I bet, are most people's first experience with a mimic in gaming. It's so iconic for its grotesque appearance, devastating attacks, and most importantly, its unexpectedness. If you've never played or heard of a Dark Souls game, then you never have any reason to suspect that these changed chests being different actually indicated that one of them wants to give you little kisses on the forehead. Oh, they're so sweet. Unless you're extremely observant or incapable of trusting anything, most first-time players' first encounters with a mimic will always be shocking. It'll instill a new kind of fear that will last throughout the rest of the playthrough, and it'll even carry over into other Souls games. If one chest can conceive, oh my god, conceive, Jesus Christ, don't include that. If one chest can deceive me, how can I trust any chest in any game ever? Okay, that one can never betray me. At least the loot they drop is usually worth the mental scarring. Oh yeah, baby swag. Now I can be the freak. Now my infatuation with Kid Icarus is quite obvious if you follow me on Twitter. Which you should probably do, by the way, haha, wink wink. And with my extensive playthroughs of Uprising comes the inevitability of fighting off some of the most creative enemies in video game history. Like an eyeball. Or 2 eyeballs. Or even 2 eyeballs wearing glasses. Ooh, scandalous. But sometimes the enemy designs can get kinda freaky, for a lack of a better word. If it weren't obvious, if something poses as or lives inside a treasure chest, then it's gonna be a bit of a weirdo. Look at this lovely angelic chest, painted in royal blue and gold. I sure hope it has some floor ice cream. Please don't step on me too hard. I truly have no context for this one. Sakurai said every day is leg day, and this is what happened. Would you rather get hit by Chun-Li's lightning kicks, or get manhandled by the creature? You decide. I'm so happy that Kid Icarus Uprising has a mimic enemy because it gives me an excuse to mention this incredibly life-changing video game that you should all definitely play. If enough people play it, then maybe someone will make a sequel to it when I am still alive, which is hopefully soon. Mimicuties also stand out quite a lot compared to the enemies you'd expect to see in this game. Do you think any of these guys are hopping on a treadmill? Of course not, because they're all being used by the Mimicuties. Funny little tidbit, I was doing some research and this wiki refers to the Mimicuties as unaffiliated enemies, which basically means that they serve no one. Every kick they throw is meant for anyone with a pulse trying to steal their contents. It doesn't matter if Pit, Magnus, or Hades himself tries opening this treasure box. Those legs are rated E for everyone. Every enemy in the beloved shoot-em-up roguelike Enter the Gungeon wields a gun! Also, most of them are anthropomorphic bullets. No surprise there, of course. It's one of the many reasons why Gungeon is one of my favorite roguelikes of all time. It sticks to the theme of firearms so well that every weapon you find and every enemy you fight feels incredibly fitting in every room you enter. Like when I see this bulletkin use a pistol, that instantly clicks with me. Of course a bullet shaped like sniper ammo is going to use a sniper rifle. This shotgun shell clearly wields a shotgun, and when I enter a treasure room, the chest is dual-wielding magnums. Wait a freaking sec. Of course this game wouldn't be this high on the list if it didn't have a really standout mimic. In fact, it checks off every box for what I believe makes a perfect mimic. It subverts the player's expectations while providing a visual cue that rewards observant Gungeoneers, giving you a chance to prepare for the fight if you don't go in guns a-blazing. For context, in Enter the Gungeon, you need a key to unlock most chests, but if you don't have a key or another way to unlock it, you can instead destroy the chest for a chance at various item drops. You could check every chest with a shot from your starting weapon to make sure it's not a mimic, but in my experience, you definitely won't be thinking about that as you barely hold on with half a heart left and next to no ammo. And you'll definitely need to prepare, because the mimics are dangerous enemies. They provide a great fight with erratic movement and tons of firepower, and the coolest part is that this applies to every rarity of treasure chests you can find in the Gungeons. There are tons of different chests with various loot in them, and every single one of them could be a big stinking liar. Brown, blue, and green chests behave the same way, but have varying amounts of health. Red and black chests are super challenging to fight, with them both being mini-boss level threats, especially because there's barely any room in a chest room to take cover in. I have certainly lost a run or two to these particularly trigger-happy containers. There's a very special chest that you can find after defeating a hard-to-find boss called the Resourceful Rat. And of course, there's a mimic that could be masquerading as one of these rat chests. I've never seen one personally, but I already know they got some bullshit in them. It doesn't even stop at chests. Even the pedestals you get items from after a boss fight, and the very walls you see in each room could try to kill you. Congrats on defeating the final boss of the run. Here's your reward. Another freaking boss fight. Oh, you wanted to find a secret wall of one of your blanks? Well, this wall doesn't want its secrets to be revealed. All of this to say that there are a lot of mimics in Enter the Gungeon, and they all give out insanely good loot if you defeat them. Most of the time, it's much better than whatever the chest had initially, so it's always worth the bullets used to take them down. This is a mimic that truly goes the extra mile. It's always rewarding to fight them. It's always an exciting yet preparable encounter due to their rarity and tells. And best of all, you can even befriend them with a necklace made out of their own teeth. Wow, how sweet. It's because of all of that that I'm putting Enter the Gungeon's chest mimic on the top of this extensive list of mimicry. But frick the mimic gun though, I hate that guy.